Hello, and welcome to What's New in Zilliant Visual Analytics Designer 8. On October 12th, we'll be upgrading our customers to the newest version of Visual Analytics Designer, and this will allow some new functionality and performance enhancements in our products. Visual Analytics is the primary user interface we use at Zilliant. This allows you to visualize your pricing and your guidance that you use within our products. So not only will you see it with our Margin Max Strategy Designer user interface, but you'll also see your workbooks and your dashboards through our Visual Analytics portal. There are two types of users for Visual Analytics Designer. This training is geared for this particular audience. You have the full functional desktop application available to you. You will be able to download Zilliant Analytics Designer 8 from your customer FTP site. You have the ability to author and publish content and perform ad hoc analysis as well. And then we have the end users, or the Visual Analytics user, which simply accesses all the workbooks that are created for you by designers through the web. We do partner with Tableau, as you know, and this year they are a Gartner leader. They have been known to have the fastest report and dashboard development times across all levels of the complex products here to the top right, as well as the highest percentage of business users as authors. Today, there's no need to be a business analyst to be able to create your worksheets and your dashboards for your general audience. So let's take a look at some of the highlights for this upgrade. First and foremost, we have the web and mobile authoring. Now, as a designer, you'll be able to select an edit button in your application of max.zilliant.com, and you'll get this menu that you see to the left. So you'll have the ability to change mark types and filters, as well as some of the items from your dimensions and measures and columns and rows. We will have some further training on the server side of this product. So let's look at some of the new features for Zilliant Visual Analytics Designer. First of all, you're going to have some new views available to you. You'll be able to create bubble charts and tree maps, as well as do some text analysis. And you'll have some new analytical features as well, including new functionality for groups and sets, as well as filters in your product. And also, you'll have improved performance and smaller extracts. In the 8 version, the server now can render marks and selections locally in a browser without waiting for a round trip back to the server. So this local rendering really speeds up analysis dramatically, and especially helps you when you have a slow connection. And we also have the concept of a performance recorder that allows you to track the time elapsed for individual workbooks to execute queries. And you'll be able to take a look at what's going on and identify some problem areas and optimize your own workbooks. And you also will have smaller extracts. So currently, if you do extract data and download it so you have it packaged on your desktop, now it has an improved compression algorithm. And so the same amount of data packaged in 7 is now almost cut in half in the version of Z8. So let's start with the visual piece before we jump into the application. First and foremost, we have free-form dashboards with overlapping objects now. This includes extensive mark types, legends, and data labels. We have scoped and shared filters available to us. And then again, some further visual analysis that we can use. So let's take a look at what's new for you in Zilliant Analytics Designer 8. First and foremost, we now have some new functionality in our dashboard window. Again, I spoke about overlapping objects. So now when you bring in new objects, you can determine whether or not you'd like them tiled or floating. So for example, if I add a new visual to my dashboard, I can move this around and now put it right on top of another worksheet that I already have visible. And then I can click off of it and it'll merge into my view here. I can move my menu items as well and place them where I want to. You can place floating worksheets, you can place floating legends. So if I'd like to move this sales legend down into my view, I can simply select floating and then move it into my view. You'll notice I have this really long quick filter here to the right as well. Zilliant Analytics Designer has some new functionality. If you use the drop-down and you select the multiple values drop-down, you're going to see one of your favorite quick filters, minimize. So I can simply select floating, again, move it onto my view, rearrange some of my items here. But when I select this drop-down for the state, now I can go in and I get to select what I want to have appearing in my view. And then when I click off of it, it breaks down again. This saves a lot of real estate in this 8 version. So when you publish it out, you can put worksheets over other worksheets, titles on top of your worksheets. So it makes a dashboard much more appealing, and it gives you more functionality and more real estate to use to display your visualizations. Also in the dashboard window, you have some new functionality down here in regards to organization. You'll notice now that we have a new icon for dashboards. It looks like a little square. And you also have the ability to color code your worksheets and dashboards. So for example, if you're working on certain worksheets that belong to one dashboard, you may choose to color them all the same color. Or perhaps you're working in a draft version of a worksheet. You may select to color it yellow until you are ready to publish it, and then you can select green, and then you know that that worksheet has been completed and it's good to go. Just some more functionality from an end user perspective that helps you organize all your worksheets inside of a workbook. The other functionality we have in regards to worksheets and dashboards is the filtering that takes place. If you recall, we used to have the concept of a global or a local filter. We typically made a filter either global to apply to all of our views, or we kept it local. So now what's really nice is we have the ability to apply to certain worksheets. So instead of using all worksheets, which is global, or only this specific worksheet, I now can choose selected worksheets, and I'm going to get a new window. It does not default here at the bottom right, but I would like to check this so I can see all the worksheets available to me in my workbook. So now I can choose, okay, I want this filter when I apply a certain state to apply to all of these other views, my sales trends, my regional sales, my total sales, as well as perhaps my forecast. And so when I go into those other workbooks, or I'm sorry, the other worksheets or dashboards, I will also see these filtered based on what I had applied in this certain dashboard, and I can select OK. Now let's take a look at some of our worksheets. So I'm going to scroll over here to the right and select this icon here, which is a worksheet icon, and this is going to create my new worksheet template to work in. One of the biggest changes in worksheets is what we call the marks card. And the marks card has also been revamped with significant new functionality and definitely a fresh new look. So instead of placing dimensions and measures on a label or a color or a size shelf, we now just drag them on top of these several new buttons here. So for example, if I'm bringing in perhaps one of my product subcategories, or I'm bringing in my sales, and I can see my map here. You'll notice this is a new tree map, and what it did was automatically bring in a label as well. So for example, I have my color as sales, my size as sum of sales, and now my actual revenue here shaded by the greens that you see in this view. If I choose to add more items, I simply have to drag them over on top of the marks cards. So for example, let's say I want to bring in profit, and I want to make profit the color down here, and you can see now not only do I see my revenue or my sum of sales by size, now I see what's colored is my profit, so I can see where my more profitable product categories are and where my least profitable categories are, and I can also see the size of revenue they bring in as well. This makes it really easy to quickly look at a lot of information in one view. Now in this functionality for ZAD8, we also have the ability to add multiple labels. So you can drag as many labels as you like. Before we would have to put this only in tooltips down here. Now you can place it in labels. So for example, I can bring in my profit ratio to a label and show it, have it appearing here. A unit price into label. I can also bring another dimension. So for example, if I actually want the category level as well as just my subcategory, I have that ability to move it there too. If I move it in my shelves, it will also show up what I have here in my tree mat. So for example, I moved technology, or I moved my category above subcategory, and now I have technology above office machines. We also have the option to add items to the level of detail in this marks window, as well as the tooltips. Before we had to actually go up and select our tooltips out of our worksheet, but now we can simply drag new items into our tooltips, and if we hover over, we can see that it's been added, in this case time to ship, to our tooltip, but it's not showing up on the labels. This is great new functionality in ZAD8. So now let's talk about groups. When we analyze data visually, we frequently find anomalies in our dimensions and measures caused by incorrectly labeled data or perhaps some outliers from a numeric standpoint. In the past, we were able to fix these miscategorized values by selecting their dimension headers and creating an ad hoc group. So in this particular case, I would go into my subcategory, I would right click, and I would create group. That's how we used to do it in the past. Now, starting in this version, we can actually create groups by selecting individual marks on any chart, just like sets, and we can create a new group. So for example, I'm going to go in and select a few of my outliers here in my view to the top right. Perhaps these are very good performing customers and I want to see some more detail on why they're performing so well. I can select group here. I can highlight and group, and then you can see my paperclip, which is my icon for grouping, and there'll be a drop down there. I can choose to group this at all dimensions or just a customer segment, or in this case, it's subcategory that I want to see. So if I create this group, now I can see that I'm just going to visualize my subcategory group here. I can expand that, and now I can view the ones that are in my group. In this case, this is part of the other, and this is the ones that are actually in my subcategory group, the ones that are highlighted in blue. Very quick way to analyze data and see more detail around it from a grouping standpoint. Remember, groups combine dimension members, so it has to be within one dimension. That's why it makes you select a dimension that you want to group it at. The difference now we have is also in sets in this product. So speaking of sets, there are a lot more analytical options available for combining and separating sets as parts of our data. Remember, sets allow you to combine multiple members across many dimensions. So let's take a look at a new example for sets. I'm going to create a new worksheet. I'm going to select my customers as well as just my sales revenue, and I'm going to select show me and create a bar chart. Oops, sorry, I left customers off. There we go. And I'm going to sort it. I want to see my top 10 customers here by revenue. So I'm going to go ahead and select my shift key, go down about 10 customers. I'm going to right click in my measures here and select create set. And I'm going to name this my top 10 customers. And select OK. And you can see that now it's going to appear in our menu item down here. And I also have a set called top 10 customers by profit. So now I have the ability I can bring in my top 10 customers and I can quickly see who's in that list and who's out in regards to my sets. I can move these in different orders and see who's in and out depending on my analysis. I could bring in a whole new dimension. So for example, if I have my customer name who's in and out, maybe I want to bring in something else, maybe my location or my customer segment and see more detailed. So in this case, I can see who's in my consumer or my corporate or my home office or small business segment and who's out. I mean, who's a member and then who's out of that top 10 in revenue. I also have a great new functionality in sets. This allows me to define more advanced concepts with sets where I can do right, left, or inner joins and combine sets as well. So if I go here to the left-hand side, and I click on my top customers and I select create a combined set, I'm going to get a new menu. And I can choose which two sets that I want to compare. So in this case, I want to do top 10 customers by revenue and top 10 customers by profit. And I'm going to call this my gold members because these are the folks that are not only performing well in sales, but as well as profitability. And I want to only look at shared members in both sets. So in this case, if I select the second button here and I click on OK, I can bring in my gold members, and let me take out my other set here. And now I can quickly see which customers fall both in top revenue and the top profitability status. And these are my gold customers. And you see, I might not have the same customers that fall into both. And here, this is a better way to see it. So let me remove that filter. There we go. And now I can see that I only actually have 6 customers that fall into the most profitable and the best revenue category. Some of my other customers have dropped out, and I can actually bring those to see, who dropped out if I'd like to, and do some further analysis to see who's in and who's in or out of both of those segments. Quick way to do some great calculations. You also have the ability to look at sets at the dimension level. So if you wanted to drill down to customer and only look at the customers by profitability, you could place that in your view. This is more helpful for end users, folks that are drilling into certain data in their views, and then now you can say, hey, you want to see the top 10 customers? Let's drill down into this view a little bit more. You also have the ability to right-click and create calculated fields and have the ability to use sets within a calculation. This is really nice because, for example, if you're creating a calculation that you always want to see a certain set of customers, whether they be your gold members or customers that have, fall under a certain percentage of profitability, and you want to include that set all the time in a calculation that you're using, you can quickly create it, apply it, and then to your views, and then have it to use. The last item I wanted to show you in regards to ZAD8 and new functionality is from the server side. So this is just a test server that I have, and I see my workbooks that are already published out, and I want to go into one of my workbooks and make some modification. Maybe I am on the road and I've had a request from senior management to see another metric that I want, in the visualization. So I can quickly go in as a designer to my workbook. I can select this edit button and I get the option to do some modifications. I'm able to see all my dimensions and measures, as well as my filters, my columns and rows, and all my mark types, etc. So I have access to everything that I have created on my desktop side, all the actions, all the parameters, and everything else. So now in this menu, in this window, I can quickly change out some measures. So for example, in this case, if I had sum of profit, or if I needed to add another type of margin, maybe, in this case, I could have put in maybe margin previous as opposed to margin. I would just simply drag and drop it into my marks and remove it. And then once I've made my changes and have applied them, I can either save as, which then saves a new workbook out on the server for me, or I can save right over it, and this publishes it over the workbook that I currently have out there. So for example, if I had seen a mistake in a workbook that I had created and I wanted to change something very quickly, I could just change it here, save it, and then it would be published for everybody to see as well. Just keep in mind, if you don't want to overwrite your current workbook, then just do a save as, and then that'll allow for another workbook to be published. Thank you for your time today. Please feel free to contact me at mcarter@zilliant.com. I'd be glad to answer any of your questions and spend some time with you to get you enabled on our newest version of Zilliant Analytics Designer 8. Have a good day.